I'm Rin.
I'm Scott.
We are the hosts of Geek Nights. It is a podcast. We talk about nerdy stuff online. If you enjoyed this at all, there are many, many hours of this on the internet for free forever.
If for some reason you like what you experience over the next hour, you can come up and get one of these flyers and bring it to the convention staff and tell them that we are so great, and also you'll find an infinite amount of content from us that I suppose you would also enjoy. If for some reason we suck, number one, you shouldn't waste your MAGFest sitting here. Get the hell out of the room. And two, still take one of these flyers with you on the way out. We really won't care or even be distracted by you doing this. And then you can bring that to the convention staff and tell them not to let us come back, because we got free badges for doing this shit.
Now, this is a little bit of a special panel, because usually, like, we do these talks, we sort of, like, craft them very carefully.
We threw this shit together at the last second. Boom! It's gonna be crappy.
Usually we bring a whole bunch of cameras. We, like, record this stuff. It all goes on YouTube. But this is a brand new one, so we're still working this talk out. So
AKA, we were lazy and didn't want to do all this shit at MAGFest.
Well, I do want to do this panel at PAX in the future.
Oh,
but
PAX is so special. You gotta do it at PAX.
Yeah, well,
Can't
but
be-
they
MAGFest's not good enough for your video recording.
Well, MAGFest is also a very different environment, because I'm not going to lie, we do not take questions at our panels at most conventions.
Yeah, if you raise your hand, you'd be hurting your arm, yo.
But at MAGFest, not saying we're going to take questions in this panel, but at MAGFest, the crowd's a little more sophisticated and actually usually asks pretty good questions.
A little smaller.
Yeah.
All right.
So, what are we talking about here? This whole panel, the reason it's sort of like a work in progress and brand new is that we based the whole panel around this one thing that happened in a game we don't even play.
All right. So here's the basic story of what went down, right? Everyone here, I think, knows about Fortnite, right?
It's
like
that game that, like, people younger than you play. And
it's a battle royale FPS situation, right? Sort of like PUBG and whatever, right? You got a whole bunch of people on a map. You shoot until one person's left alive. They win. Right? What happened was they're changing this game all the damn time, which is what keeps it exciting and fresh for all the players. One thing they changed is they make it so when you kill someone, they drop loot on the ground, right? And that sort of makes this sort of escalating, right, win more mechanic, where if you're good at shooting and killing people, you get more loot, which makes it easier to shoot and kill more people. And it kind of makes it like an actual competitive game of skill, right? Kind of like an esport. Yeah. It's like, you know, that way the people who are better at it will win more, right? And the people who are worse at it will win less.
So the people who play this game a lot and are vocal about it online, which are basically like the competitive community, the streamers, they thought this was great. Everyone was talking about how, oh, this made the game more serious, more good. Like, the game is better now. We are so happy. But the people who make Fortnite, Epic Games, noticed that people were playing the game less. The rest of the audience, the people who aren't streamers, who aren't competitive players, they were not having fun and they were not playing anymore. It got to the point that Epic removed these changes. The competitive community freaked out. They started, oh, we're gonna quit this game. The streamers were like, oh, we're done with Fortnite. They ruined Fortnite. But meanwhile, everybody else started playing again, and the player base was happier. So they made the game more random, less competitive, and they removed a pretty objectively good set of rules changes they'd made to make the game more fun for their audience. Mm-hmm. That brought up a whole bunch of interesting feelings stirring in my soul. Because on one hand, I like really competitive games. I want fair competition. I want a fair, serious game.
Because that's the kind of people that we happen to be.
Yeah.
Not everyone is that kind of person, but we are.
Like, that's why I don't play Fortnite. I play PUBG. PUBG is a...
When's the last time you played PUBG?
A month ago.
Oh, all right.
But, PUBG is basically, I like to say, a thinking man's Fortnite. Uh-huh. Not really. But if Fortnite is running around hitting people with a baseball bat screaming and then building a house and sitting
PUBG is running around hitting people with a frying pan screaming.
Nah, usually PUBG is like hiding in a shack with a sniper rifle trying not to breathe.
And then dying.
So we're going to talk about like what actually went down here, like the mechanics of it, some of the theory of it, and we're going to go kind of deep in a bunch of areas. But one thing that's really important is that this is a really common story. This happens a lot, it just never really happens on the scale that it happened with Fortnite. Most people do not want serious competition, and almost any game that has multiple people playing together will have one person who tries harder than everyone else, and then nobody has fun. For example, I very much enjoy air hockey.
Right. We always talk about the air hockey problem is like the name we've given to it, but you can give it, you know, the Street Fighter problem, the Soul Calibur problem, whatever problem it is. You know, we have a Dan problem right now where our friend Dan knows how to play Smash Brothers. We don't.
Yeah. You know, like some people use that block button and other people don't. We don't use the block button.
Right. I try to use the block button. Right. And it's like you can tell, right? So if we play Smash Brothers with each other, it's just a crazy, random, fun, good time. And if Dan's in, Dan wins.
Yep.
Because Dan knows what he's doing. Right. It's not fun when Dan plays. Right. Because Dan is good and we're not good.
Yep, so air hockey is what it happened to us with air hockey.
We're good at air hockey. Our friends aren't good at air hockey. So when I say to anyone except Rim, let's play air hockey, they're like, no. So now, even though I love air hockey, I can rarely play it because no one will play it with me because I'm the Dan of air hockey.
But meanwhile, we did a show on air hockey a long time ago, and like the National Air Hockey Association was like, oh, you guys are into air hockey? You should come to the championships.
And I'm like, I will not score a single goal against any of those people.
Yeah, like...
They're the Dan of air hockey to me.
Yep. So... who do we play with? We're not going to go pro, but we also don't want to play just like casual, like not try to win air hockey. So we're kind of stuck in this middle ground.
Right, we care about winning. We're competitive, but we're just not that great.
Now, if you go back through history, this has always been a problem. Read about like card games, trick-taking games, those kinds of things, and you'll constantly see this old concept of sharp play. The etymology is complicated, but you know people say like, oh, a card shark or a pool shark? It was probably actually originally a card sharp, as in someone who plays cards sharply. Sharp play didn't mean cheating. It wasn't just like pulling a knife out. It meant...
it's not a card up the sleeve.
Yeah, not actually cheating like he's got an ace back there somewhere, but more cheating like breaking the social conventions of the game. If you try too hard to win, you're being a jerk. If you try too hard to win, you are breaking the spirit of the game. Deflategate may or may not be an example of that kind of thing. Like, what's the rule, and what's the punishment, and what is like the behavior that the society playing the game expects? This has always been a problem, and we're going to talk about why it's always been a problem. And it comes down to the idea of community. We're going to use Star Wars as the example.
Right, so I want you to imagine, right, a couple Star Wars fans, right? One of them really loves cosplay, right? They're all about Star Wars cosplay. They're in the 501st. They got stormtrooper uniforms, right? And that's the thing they love most about Star Wars. Obviously, they love all things Star Wars, but that's their main focus, right? Someone else really likes Star Wars, and they like, I don't know, fan fiction, right? They're doing some Fin Po ships, right? And it's like both these people are totally awesome Star Wars fans, and because they're cool nerds, right? We see at MAGFest people who enjoy different things in different ways. We can all get along, right? But you get along best not with the people who enjoy the same thing as you, but with people who enjoy things for the same reason as you, right? So that Fin Po shipper is probably going to be a better friend of somebody who is like a Harry Potter fan fiction writer, right? Who's doing some, I don't know, whatever ships they have in Harry Potter.
It's
right?
not TIE fighters.
Right, exactly. Then they would be as a friend to the 501st cosplayer, right? Even though they like the same thing as the other person, right? They like the thing for different reasons in different ways, right? How they like it and why they like it is more important to their shared, right, friendship and understanding than what they like, right? But yet, so often in the world, we organize our communities around the things. We have a Star Wars community. We have a board game community. We have a music community or a Harry Potter community. And you get people in those communities who like that same thing for wildly different reasons, and they don't get along, right? Because what they should be organizing around is the reason they like a thing. We're the shipping community. We're into ships. We don't care what you ship, right? And all those people, they're not obviously going to have no drama. We know the internet. But they're going to get along better. They have more in common with each other, right, than they do with people who just happen to like the same thing, right? The thing is not what's important.
Yep, but at the same time, now you have to think about like the extremes in both directions. You can't just say, oh, separate the communities. Look at MAGFest. Look at where we are right now. It's the music and get the and is even in the name of MAGFest. It is multiple different communities that like things for different reasons sort of mashed together into this magical space. And that cross-pollination is how you go from being a nerd who knows about one thing to a geek who knows about a few things. Mm-hmm. At the same time, if you take a hyper-specific community, like people are into shipping Harry Potter and Snape specifically and nothing else, that community probably exists out there. I'm 100% sure that community exists. I'm 100% for sure it is terrifying. Hyper-specialized communities have hyper-specialized problems, which we're going to talk about.
But the point is, oh, you went somewhere else?
Oh.
Right.
Look at even sports. Like, this is the best way to really like see this. Look at sports like hockey or football or whatever. What is the commonality between people who play hockey and the people who watch hockey? It's just the noun hockey, maybe the verb hockey, to hockey. I like to hockey. I like to watch hockey.
And that's not to say that those two groups are like these mutually exclusive things, right? There are people who play and watch, right? There are people who enjoy things for multiple reasons. Maybe there's someone out there who's shipping and cosplaying Star Wars at the same time, right? But, you know, there's always going to be your focus, right? The thing that you're more, are you more a fan or more a player, right?
But if you want to make a space for these like aspects of the community, they need very different things. Hockey players need gyms and ice rinks and technical like heuristic discussions. Fans just need a couch.
I guess, sure.
But it also comes down to the idea of, is the thing we're talking about interactive? And this is where we're going to get into the meat of the panel and get back to games. Is it interactive or not? Because if a fandom is non-interactive, like the enjoyment of cinema, the interaction is just like the meta discussion around the cinema, unless you're in the community of making cinema. Mm-hmm. So they need very different things. And because gaming is interactive, that's where we're going to see like these very specific types of conflicts.
Right.
Because it turns out to play a game that is competitive, you need at least one other person at the table.
Right. Gaming is like a special case, right? If you're into that Star Wars cosplay, that is a thing that you can do alone at home without interacting with other people, and therefore no drama, right? You can just enjoy your hobby by yourself. And there are some solo games, right? If you're home alone playing, I don't know, what do they still make single player games these days?
Actually,
the new Kojima game, right? The one where you carry the babies around or whatever, right? You can play that at home by yourself, not go online, not go to some Reddits or some Discords, right? You can not join any communities. You can watch Twitch streams and close the chat, right? And you won't have any drama. But for you to play games, most of them are going to be multiplayer, especially tabletop games, especially RPGs. You have to come together with other human beings. And if you come together with other people to play a game, the game being the thing, and the other people you're playing with do not enjoy the game in the same way for the same reason as you're going to have drama and conflict. And that is why every single board game and tabletop RPG community in the entire internet has the same discussions over and over again. How do I kick this player out?
Yep. Well, it's an order. This is the hedgehog's dilemma.
Right.
Problem number one, how do I find people to play with? Problem number two, how do I get these people out of my house? So, what actually happened with Fortnite? Let's go a little deeper into what exactly happened. In Fortnite, there were two different communities in the game.
People were playing the same game, Fortnite, for completely different reasons and enjoyed it in completely different ways.
These two beautiful stock images that I bought, these aren't just random kids I found. So one set of players, the streaming community, the competitive community, they want it to be a professional esport. They want to play it professionally. They want a serious competition. They're organizing their lives around it. There aren't that many of those people. They're just the loudest.
Right, and they want to be to be able to say, I am the best at Fortnite, right? They want to increase their skills in their own human bodies, in their own hands, to be the best at it, to win, to get prizes, to be famous, to make that a job, something like that.
So it's like me, I'm super serious competitive. If I'm playing a game against someone and they don't fight back and I just win, that is not fun. I mean, some people might find that fun, but I don't find that fun. I want a real competition. If I'm gonna have a boxing match, I want someone to try to punch me.
You don't want to punch back.
I don't want to go up to someone in a bed and just start punching them.
That feels real bad.
So what do these communities want? The competitive players, they want the best player to win. They want their skill to be tested. They want it to be fair. They want the game to end so they can move on to the next game to get their ranks up. They don't want random crap to make them lose. And they want the ranking system to be accurate. They want to be able to say, I'm the 5th strongest man on Bifrost Island.
If anyone get that joke? Reference? No. Okay, good.
Wow, I feel old.
We're old.
What do the casual players want? I don't know, not get killed, build a base, right. Kill time, just hang out.
Right. In short, the casual player, and there are more kinds of players than just these two, by the way, but they just want to play, right? You got some Legos, you just want to play with them, right? It's like, you don't even care necessarily if you lose or win. You just want to have fun with the stuff. That's why in like StarCraft, they'd be like, all right, don't attack for 5 minutes. You want to have fun with all the dudes, right? You don't care if you win or lose after that. But if you play against a competitive player in StarCraft, they kill you before you can build anything.
Yep.
You're dead before you can play, right? If you're playing Street Fighter against someone who can play Street Fighter, right? You don't get to hit them even once. You don't even get to throw a Hadouken. You just die to a combo immediately. You don't get to do the playing and fun part. So there's someone who just wants to play. They just want to play their magic cards. They don't care if they win. And there's someone who just wants to win. They don't care how they win. They just need to be declared the winner.
And we were like that when I was a kid with my kid brain. I would play NES games and just like not beat them. I just kind of wander around because I was a kid. My brain just wanted to do that for some reason. But the Fortnite changes made a conflict between those two very specific goals. Competitive players want the best player to win, and casual players just don't want to get killed immediately. They want to get killed eventually because they're not going to win. They're not trying that hard, but they want to actually do stuff first.
Yeah, I guess you can like watch movie trailers in Fortnite, right? Something like that. So I assume you would want to be able to live to watch the whole trailer and not get killed halfway through.
So before we can explain like exactly why these two separate concepts came into conflict, we need to introduce a bunch of theory and concepts and definitions of stuff. First off, this is a definition of basically the kind of game we're talking about. It's from a book called Characteristics of Games by Richard Garfield, the Magic the Gathering guy, like he knows his stuff. And an ortho game is a particular kind of game. It's basically what we're talking about, competitive games, meaning there's 2 or more players, there's rules, and we're gonna rank the players at the end of the game. This person did the best, this person did the worst.
Right, there are other kinds of games out there, like D&D is not an ortho game. You don't like rank who won D&D, right? It's just a role-playing thing, right? You don't rank who won Ring Around the Rosie. It's just a game, you just sort of have fun. You don't win Duck, Duck, Goose, I guess, whatever, no one cares, right? But you rank poker. Someone won the poker tournament. You rank Magic. I won the Magic tournament. You rank tennis. I'm the #1 tennis player on earth. No, I'm not.
So I'm not going to just keep saying ortho game. I'm going to... It's MAGFest.
We're going to say game. We mean ortho game.
We mean this definition.
Right.
So fun. Fun, very simply, like if I have to distill it down, it's just, what do the players want? What do you want out of the game?
Right, it's different for every person. Every person wants something different, but they say they're having fun when they're getting what they want from the game. So if the person who wants competition gets competition, they say, oh, this game is fun. If the person who wants to watch movie trailers gets to watch movie trailers, they say it's fun, right? It's just this shorthand word that it's very hard to use in any sort of discussion because it means something different for everyone, but what it means is the game is giving me the thing that I'm here for.
Yep. I mean, ask a Dwarf Fortress player what they mean by the word fun, and they'll tell you some shit. The definition of fun in Dwarf Fortress is, I want to see my last dwarf die weeping, bitter and alone in an empty room surrounded by all his dead cats. And they'll be like, yeah, wasn't that amazing? And you're just like, how did you get into my house?
That's the second time you've worded how someone got in your house in this panel.
Utility. Utility is the game theory term. It's what players want that actually comes from the game. If I'm playing Fortnite, hanging out with my friends, the fun's coming from my friends and the environment and all these other factors combined. But utility is what the game gives you, what the game says you want. In Fortnite, it's being the last person alive.
Right. You can have a lot of fun and while playing a lot of games, but the game might not be giving you that fun. That fun could come from somewhere else, right? Yep. You happen to be getting drunk while the game was being played. That's not the game's fault. You can't give the game You can't give the game credit for all that fun you had with the beer.
But think about what utility means then. In an ortho game, utility by definition is being the highest rank you could be. That is it. You are seeking to maximize your utility by maximizing your rank, by being the best. Thus, griefing is when a player is seeking alternative utility. They're going for something other than what the game said. If we're playing poker and I'm trying to win all the money and Scott's trying to lose all his money, we're in a weird situation now.
Right, and you see this happen a lot. Usually when people talk about griefing, they think of like the classic case of someone, camping a corpse in an MMO so you can't respawn, or team killing in an FPS, right? But those are just a subset of the types of things someone could do. Like if you're team killing in Counter-Strike, you're not trying to win Counter-Strike. You're trying to do something else besides win. You've decided this other goal for yourself, right? Because for whatever reason, you don't like the goal the game has given you, but you're going to play in the same space and do something different. Instead of trying to win this game of Carcassonne, I'm just going to try to make the biggest castle.
Yep.
Whatever.
So griefing happens when either players are seeking fun that is different from utility, or multiple players are seeking different types of utility. They're not all seeking the same utility that the game told them to. To give an example of this is a story we've told in other panels before, but it's the tale of the angriest people in the world. It's part of a much bigger panel about like losing and all these other things we talked about and competition, but basically in Overwatch in the old days, the ranking system was a little different, and there was a gentleman who went by the name of Hanjo, and Hanjo decided that he wanted to be the very worst. He wanted to achieve the minimum possible rank in Overwatch. His goal was to be the worst possible player on Earth, to the point that the game would literally say, you've achieved something. So he would play this game to lose. That is griefing. That is arguably also trolling. It was amazing. Find this article about Hanjo. And
think about how you would feel if this person was on your team in a random match online, right? You'd be very upset.
And there's a lot of things going on here, but you can see how this is a problem when one player literally wants the opposite of what everyone else in the game wants. But some other interesting things happen, because in the ranking system, it used to be like 1 to 100, but when he hit the 30s, this is a quote from the dude, he met the angriest people in the world, because those are people who want to be competitive players, but are bad. People worse than that weren't trying that hard, or were so bad they didn't know they were bad and they were just having fun. People better than that were trying to get better. These were the people who said they wanted competition but didn't really want competition.
Right. It's like in their minds they wanted to win, right? But they didn't have we don't know. Was it the wrong competitive mindset? They were practicing, but ineffective practicing. Their skills weren't going up. Maybe that was the most skill they could achieve with their innate human ability. For whatever reason, they had hit a wall. They want to win. They care about winning. They're there for the same reasons as the esports champions are. They just aren't that good.
Yep. So talk about utility and ortho games. They went to the ortho game and said, "Daddy, rank me," and then it ranked them. Agency. This is pretty important. What can the player actually control? The more randomness there is in a game, the less agency the players have. The less randomness, the more agency. The problem with agency, if we think about the angry people, is that the more control you have, the more fault you have when you suck.
But also, right, the loss of agency is, I think for just about anyone playing any game, is the loss of fun, right? It's like you have agency means you have stuff you can do, right? And you usually don't have agency when someone's hitting you with a combo that's unblockable in Street Fighter. No button you press will do anything. You're stuck in getting comboed, bro.
But there are a lot of games where the players actually have zero agency.
Candyland. No one has any agency in Candyland.
There is no decision you can make in Candyland. It is literally random. Flipping a coin is statistically identical to playing Candyland. It just takes a lot longer.
Candyland is not a game. It is a find out who won game.
Well,
you're slowly revealing the predetermined result.
But here's the problem. It is an ortho game. It has rules. It has more than one player. It does rank the players. The players just have no say in how they're ranked. It's still an ortho game. Think about that. So skill. Skill is what the game is testing that the players have agency over. Like in Counter-Strike, the skill it is testing is, can I click on heads before other people click on them? Have I memorized this map? It's testing those kinds of skills. But it's not a skill if you don't have control over it. So Candyland is not testing any skill unless you cheat. Here's where we're getting to what happened in Fortnite. Incentive. Incentives in games are what the game rewards, but it's what the game rewards with utility. The game says, if you do this, I'll give you more utility.
Right, you will get a higher rank. You will win more if you do this thing. Please do this.
Now notice I didn't say fun. The game will not reward me with more fun. It can only ever reward me with utility. So if I want fun and the game gives me utility, I'm in a bad place. These definitions, I just want to be very clear about the next two slides. We are not implying any judgment at all. We are just categorizing gamers into two vague categories to have a conversation.
We don't really want to, the word casual, who knows what the hell that word means, right? But this is just what we're going to make it mean for today in this room, right?
Yep.
Don't be arguing with us about this, pedantic person.
When I play,
you're out there.
I don't know, Fortnite, let's say. If I play Fortnite, I'm just trying to have some fun, like extrinsic enjoyment. Like I have all these reasons to play Fortnite and I'm just gonna play it. I'm not worried about doing that well. I play a lot of games casually. I play Street Fighter casually because I'm terrible at it.
And you're not gonna put in the time to get better.
No.
I tried that one time. Didn't go well.
But a competitive player is trying to maximize their utility, not their fun. Look at professional esports players. Look at professional sports players, professional athletes. They are doing things that may be painful. They are training. They are training to be better at a game. Sometimes when I play Overwatch, I just do drills. I play against bots. I practice clicking on heads. I'm seeking utility. I am not seeking fun. It just so happens that what I consider to be fun is also what the game considers to be utility.
Right. There's some people who are just like that, right? Where it's like whatever the utility is, they have fun doing that, and some people don't. That's okay to be both people.
Here's a more complex concept. Return on effort. Trick-taking games, card games, even blackjack, like card games to a degree, there's a thing you can do. You can count the cards that have been played and memorize what other people have played to have better odds in the future. Like I know Scott's played 4 kings, there ain't any more kings. I will use that information to my advantage. But that's a pain in the ass to do. You have to keep all that in your head. You can't write it down. You've just got to memorize it. You've got to remember things. So in characteristics of games, we have this concept of how much return, how much reward does the game give you for increasing amounts of effort. So in a trick-taking game like Hearts, if you've ever played Microsoft Hearts, if I count 1 thing, the game rewards me. If I count 2 things, the game rewards me. If I count 3 things, the game rewards me. The more effort I expend, the game rewards me more. Like I'm more likely to win. But you see how that curve drops off. It takes a lot more effort to get a little more reward. If I just count the jacks that were played, that's way easier than counting every card. But counting every card will only give me a few % chance more of winning. So look at, say, a complex game like chess, as opposed to a simple game like Hearts. Chess rewards effort more than Hearts does. Hearts gets to a point to where if I put extreme effort in, I will only get a tiny bit better. But if you put extreme effort into chess, you will get way better in a hurry.
And in fact, to be better, you have to put in extreme effort, right? If you just put in a little effort, you're going nowhere fast in chess, right? All the great chess players put in tons and tons of time, and the Go players put in even more.
Return on skill is subtly distinct from return on effort. Return on skill is the idea that if I demonstrate the skills, think back to our definition, skill being the things I have agency over, if I am better at them, I will win more often.
Right, so some people are just better at other things than other people, right? It's like someone just runs faster. Usain Bolt, he just runs faster than everyone else who's ever lived. That's just how it is. There's nothing you can do about it. He put some effort to get there, but now that speed, I think he's out playing soccer or something. Guess what? That probably helps him playing soccer quite a bit, right? And no one else is gonna catch him if he runs down the field with the ball.
Yep. But this is why ranking systems work. If you are ranking players based on the skill they demonstrate, you're rewarding skill properly, then the better players will win. But the better players winning might have a lot of other consequences in the game. So return on effort, how much is trying hard rewarded? Return on skill, how much is being good rewarded? You can get skill by expending effort. Randomness. Adding randomness to a game intrinsically decreases player agency and thus decreases the return on skill. This is randomness, return on skill. The more randomness I add, the less reward I get for demonstrating skill, and the lower these % chances of beating other players become. So now that we know all these words, what is the deal with Fortnite? It's real simple. The game added an incentive where if you kill other players, you will get more stuff. So you can expend more effort to get more stuff, to get more utility, which will then rank you higher. But as a result, players were incentivized to kill other players quickly. So if someone's good and they join a game of Fortnite, they will immediately find the closest person and beat them to death.
Right, so this person who's playing they're going for utility, right? They have high skills, they're putting in a lot of effort, but while they're doing that and enjoying themselves, because the way the game works, where it's an elimination game and the other people die, they're constantly getting utility by taking away agency from other players. Right? It's like, aha, please go and ruin the game of as many players as you can, and then you will be the winner. Right?
So these concepts are very useful, and I urge you when you play games, or you feel, especially if you are playing a game and you feel frustrated and you don't know why, think about all these words that we just showed you in these graphs, and you can probably figure out like specifically what it is that you're mad about, and then you can just play a different game with that knowledge. So that is exactly what happened. Fortnite started rewarding, I forgot I had this slide, killing dudes. But by rewarding killing dudes less, the game was more fun for most players, because now players are, even if someone expends a ton of effort in Fortnite, they can't actually be that much better than other players. So now we get into an interesting space, because we're really competitive. Like, we like to play super serious competitive games. What happens when games reward skill to a high degree? Well, like, what are the common things across all games, tabletop games, video games, everything, sports, a game that rewards skill to a very high degree? What happens? Because common things happen in all games. First, it's not just that worse players lose more often. Worse players always lose. I will never beat Scott at Street Fighter. In fact, at one point, it was so pathetic.
I'm not that good, by the way.
No.
Most people here will beat me, but I can beat Rim with only jab.
Yep.
Jab only. I've done it.
And I was trying hard, but I just couldn't beat him. Scott was just like jab, duck, jab, jab, duck, jab, duck. And I'm trying every combo I can think of. It's just like a brick wall. It's like playing basketball against LeBron.
If I played basketball against LeBron, would I even touch the ball? Would I even be playing basketball? Right? If I got the ball, he would just steal it, run over, and dunk. And what could I do about it? No matter what effort I do, right? It's like maybe I could commit a foul and give him 2 points, I guess. I guess I could do that.
I feel like if you try to foul him, you just bounce off of him.
Probably. He's like,
Right? But think about that. LeBron stole your agency just by being good. He stole all your agency, and there's nothing you can do about that. You're not even playing the game, arguably. Efficiency now becomes way more fun, or more important than fun. This is this concept of Pareto efficiency. But the idea is, let's say this is like some sort of Street Fighter game, and if you get down to this little corner here, that is the invincible god character. That's Goku and Salty Bet. Always bet on Goku. So maybe it's like speed and strength, it doesn't matter. These can be multi-dimensional graphs. But the idea is, if there's a whole bunch of characters in the game, a whole bunch of systems, a whole bunch of things you can do, there's this frontier of efficiency where these are the best possible options. If an option is not the best possible option, there is no reason to ever choose it. So C here, let's say that's good old Dan Hibiki. Let's say that I want to play this character. I like this character. I have fun playing this character. But I could just be better at speed or better at strength without losing anything. By moving closer to this frontier, I'm just better. I give up nothing. There is no reason on earth to ever pick this character, and in a highly competitive game that rewards skill, no one will ever pick this character, and anyone who does pick this character is guaranteed to lose.
Right, so you see this in pretty much any asymmetric game that lets you choose characters or races or classes or anything like that. If your thing that's the favorite of yours that you want to have fun with because you have this other reason, like I like green, so I want to be the green character. I like ninjas, I want to be the ninja, right? Whatever it is, if that doesn't happen to be statistically, mathematically on the frontier of efficiency, then competitively, you're just making the game harder for yourself, right? That's why in Smash, they have like tiers, right? If you're not picking a character on the S tier, why are you even playing, right? There's no point.
Entire systems of the game become irrelevant at this point. Like, look at baseball, the concept of the 3 true outcomes. Like, baseball has degenerated to the point that fielding barely matters. You're not gonna see a pickle in a professional game of baseball anymore. It's so rare that like people will freak out when it happens. But pickle's super fun. I love watching a pickle. Do people know what pickle is? Or people are, wow, nerds, god damn it. So in baseball, if someone's running toward a base, you know what bases are, right? Okay. So say I'm on first base and the batter hits the ball and I'm running towards second and then the fielders get the ball and they throw it to second base. I gotta get the hell back to first base so I'm not out. But then they throw the ball to first base. Now I gotta get back to second base, and now I'm going back and forth trying to get to a base.
It's extremely common in Little League, right? But professional baseball players know how to deal with that situation so perfectly because they're so pro. They're the best on earth, right? They're at LeBron level that is just over immediately. There's no pickling doesn't happen, right? Because no one's stupid enough to get into that situation, and when the situation does happen, it's over, right? So that whole fun aspect of the game just doesn't even happen. Think about something like Magic the Gathering. They'll put out a whole new set of cards and they'll introduce different mechanics and systems. Some of those systems will be competitively viable. Maybe one of those other systems is one that you really think is fun and want to mess with, right? I remember I played Fallen Empires. I don't know if anyone's that old. And they had these thalids, right? You make a bunch of tokens, right? It was just a token generator. And it's that was not competitively viable, but it was mad fun to have a big old pile of 1/1 thalid grass monsters, whatever it was, right? It was really fun. It would not win you anything, right? So they printed all these cards, and everyone who thought that those cards were fun was just, your play is invalidated because you will never win against anyone who's trying to win. Only these cards, the strongest ones, are playable.
The game will distill down to a small number of true outcomes. The whole 3 true outcomes game in baseball is a relatively recent sort of joke idea, but it's the idea that any at-bat in baseball comes down to one of 3 true outcomes. Either the batter hits a home run because that is how you achieve victory, the batter gets walked to the base because that is how balance is achieved with balls, or the batter strikes out because we refuse to compromise. Nothing else matters. That's the entire game of baseball now.
Modern baseball is those 3 things.
Only a few skills get tested. If you're playing Counter-Strike, there is one thing you need to do. You need to click on heads.
Right. Now, you think Counter-Strike has all these other things going on,
yeah,
right?
There's all these weapons.
Which path do I take? Where do I hide? Do we use smoke grenades? Do we try to make a feint, send one person to left to make them think we're going to bomb site A, but we all go B? Deception. There's all these other things you could do in Counter-Strike. If someone can click on heads better than the other people, then those things don't come into play because your entire team is dead from headshots. In order for those things to matter, everyone in the whole game, all the players need to be equally good at clicking on heads. They need to have maximized their head clicking ability. Now that everyone in the game is a master head clicker, the victory will now be determined by things like feinting A going to B, or smoke grenade here, or well-timed thing there, or sniping in a secret spot, or whatever that is, right? So same thing in Street Fighter. If you can't execute all the special moves, right, without even thinking about it, I only got a Hadouken out maybe half the time I try, right? If you can't do that, then you're just going to lose to someone who can. But if you get 2 pro players, now suddenly things like spacing matters, and you'll see people dancing back and forth and doing all these other things. You cannot enjoy that part of the game until you master completely these other lower level skills. So for the casual player who's just playing to have fun, I just want to poke people with my favorite character or whatever, they do not get to enjoy all those other aspects of the game playing against someone who knows what the hell they're doing.
And psychologically, it's even worse because now these lower level skills, they still are skills. They require effort. You have to learn them. You have to get good at them. But if you're not at 100%, you still feel like you've invested, like you've learned this skill, and the game punishes you and says, nope, you actually don't know this skill at all. Your worth in this skill is 0. Not lower, 0. A meta emerges. A meta is something people complain about a lot. They just complain that the meta even exists. I really want to play Bastion this season, but Bastion sucks. Competitive games, the meta, like Scott said with the tiers, that is literally all that matters. If this player is viable, it will be ranked up here in the meta. There is almost no exception to that unless the game is not actually fully competitive and realized. An example of that is Aussie Rules Football. not that many people play Aussie rules football. So we haven't achieved maximal perfection. Not every team has a ton of like super pro perfect players, so weird stuff can still happen in the game. An underdog might come on and win. If you have a mature competitive scene, those rankings will be basically 99 to 100% accurate.
Right, and this is why you see games constantly stirring things up, and games that don't stir things up get stale. Like we just mentioned, baseball, a very conservative sport that doesn't like to change things, has gotten really stale. Whereas other sports, you know, like the basketball or the hockey, right? Changing rules. Hockey changes rules pretty consistently. The trapezoid is new. They changed the
icing rule.
The delay of game rule changed recently, right? And so hockey stays relatively fresh, at least compared to baseball, right? And Overwatch, which has seasons, stays way fresh, right? Constantly changing things up.
Yeah, this meta actually moves around, and that's a big deal. So, a lot of you might play Pokemon. I just found this image. I didn't make that image. I just found it on the internet. I was Googling for Pokemon IV training, and I found that image multiple times. But
Nice bird.
Pokemon has like this whole like combat, like, oh, what do I use? Like, what attack do I use? How do I set up my team? But if you're good at the game and you're playing seriously, that stuff is all that actually matters. If you haven't maximized this, no amount of skill will let you win a Pokemon tournament because you have to get that perfect first.
Right, you have to assume that when you go to a Pokemon tournament, every team you fight against will be 6 Pokemon that have perfect EVs and IVs. Every single one is going to have that, right? If you do not even, if you're some kid at home just playing Pokemon for fun, you don't know about EVs and IVs, right? Maybe you are the super Poke nerd who went on the internet and researched them and then you do know, but most kids don't. Go ask like a little kid playing Pokemon in the subway. They don't know what the hell that shit is, right? It's this totally secret thing, right? But it's a gateway. You must do it in order to have any chance whatsoever.
Yep. Think about even like, and this is to get tiny increases in your percent chance of winning. It's like poker. Playing a game like Texas Hold'em poker, you're gonna fold most of the time, and you're gonna count cards, and you're gonna calculate odds, and you're gonna make decisions based on really fiddly odds. That isn't fun for most people. That is not fun for most people. That's just the ticket you need to buy to be able to play the game competitively. Chess is even seeing this at this point. The more because chess rewards skill highly. There's no randomness in chess. It's not like the pawn might pull through and kill the queen.
Not only is there no randomness, there's no hidden information. There's no secrets. You see everything. Right?
So if you watch competitive chess, like serious chess, what you'll see is that one, AIs will always beat humans forever. No human will ever beat a modern AI ever again in chess. It's
Until we get robot brains.
But then
Wink,
we're not
wink.
human anymore. We've transcended.
Shh, different panel.
But in human play, chess always ends in a draw. Watch any like serious final form chess tournament when they're like using their maximum powers. It'll be draw, 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 stalemate, draw. It's just the games are draws forever. There's a lot of reasons for this. We don't really have time to get into all of them.
They went in the
chess.
most recent like World Chess Championship. They went to like ultra tiebreakers. It was pretty deep.
But think about that in a competitive game where players are rewarded for skill and the best player always wins. If a game gets to the point where 2 players have achieved nominally maximum human skill, there is no longer a system to differentiate between those players. They effectively become ranked equally, and neither one of them has a way to get better. There's no more headroom. Like Fortnite, with all the randomness in it, there's a point above which you just can't get better. You're reliant on the luck.
Right, so I'm the best anyone could possibly be at Fortnite. It's impossible to be better, so the randomness part will now determine who is the champion.
Yep.
Right?
But in chess, the game, like mathematically, the attractors in chess, not to get too deep, are draws. Meaning the game has a lot more ways to end in a draw than to end in someone winning. So if I am a professional and I feel like there's a chance I'm gonna lose, I might as well go for the draw. Because going for the draw, drawing with someone doesn't make me lose any points in the tournament. And if I can go for the draw, I will always go for the draw. You find everyone going for the draw.
And if you're trying to win, you have the advantage, maybe a slight advantage you feel, right? And you try to push for that win. Your opponent keeps pushing for the draw, making it incredibly hard for that win to actually succeed because those moves that go towards the draw make your win fail.
Yep.
Right.
So this is a more subtle one. If your game is too skill-based, spectators need a lot more knowledge and skill to even enjoy the game. That happens in sports. That's why like major league sports have pretty simple rules, or those rules don't matter that much to the average person's enjoyment. Like, how many people really know the rules for an onside kick or all the weird stuff that can happen in football? Most football fans don't even know. That's why the ref comes out and says, blah, 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 you can't do that, 5-yard penalty, magic words, touchdown. They explain what happened because most people don't actually know.
All right, so the same thing, MOBAs, I think, are the most egregious example of this.
What the hell is happening here?
Right. Most people who watch a MOBA, right, if they don't know everything that's going on, even the announcers can't help you. Oh, so-and-so used a BKB. Oh, my God, look at this big explosion. Okay, and someone won. Okay. If you're a master of the game, you know what happened. Otherwise, you just saw a bunch of fancy colors splashing. I don't know.
And you can see this, like if you ever go to a sporting event, like a hockey game in particular, you'll see most people like cheer at like certain points, but there's a few people in the crowd who cheer at times where you don't know why they're cheering, but it's the same few people. You watch one of these tournaments, I remember the first time there's a big LOL tournament at the Penny Arcade Expo, and we even like went, I was watching some of the rounds, and you'd see like a few people would suddenly start cheering, and then everyone else would kind of start cheering because they were cheering. But they didn't really understand what had happened, they just knew something exciting was happening. So a lot of people have this idea that you can catch up in a game. There's no such thing as catching up. That is not a thing. That is an illusion. That is a statistical illusion tricking your brain.
All right, who is winning this game? Is it A or B? Who is ahead? A. Really?
He's gonna be ahead.
What if B isn't? What if B rolls a 2?
He takes that ladder. He wins.
But you
what
don't
if
know.
he
Who
doesn't?
is ahead right now? You don't know what's going to be rolled in the future.
Let's say we roll 3-sided dice to decide who moves versus 4-sided dice versus 6-sided dice versus 20-sided dice. The reality is, like the point of this is that that ladder is there whether you see it or not. So if you ever hear a story in a game where someone was behind but then they caught up and won, they did not catch up, they just weren't as behind as you perceived.
Right, so think about Mario Kart. That ladder is a blue shell, right? So if B is behind A with a blue shell in a 2-player Mario Kart, even though it says on the listing, right, A first place, B second place, no, it's just lying to you. B behind with a blue shell in a 2-player race is in first place already, right?
And in hyper-competitive games that reward skill very highly, like chess does, catching up never happens. It's not that it doesn't happen because it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because you no longer perceive the possibility of it happening because the game's expertise, the spectation expertise, the way the game plays, you don't even see the opportunity for someone to catch up. Like that ladder is just erased and you see the game for what it is. In terms of the industry, in terms of selling games to people, the reality is most people don't want skill to matter, and if you have a game that rewards skill, you drastically reduce the number of people who are willing to play your game.
Right, now we've already talked about how there's different people enjoy things for different reasons. Whatever you enjoy for whatever reason, all are valid. Everyone is good. There's no right or wrong way to enjoy anything. Well, there are some wrong things to enjoy, but mostly there aren't. Right? But, there's not saying that, not caring about winning is somehow a worse person than someone who does. It's saying that just statistically, for any given game, most people don't care about winning, right? Even someone who cares about winning in game A, right? They put all their effort into it. You can only have so much time in your life to practice. You can only be good at so many things. So even a super pro Counter-Strike player doesn't care about winning when they play some board game or something, right? So for any given game, most people do not care about winning. They are casual, as we are using the word in this panel. So if you want to sell a lot of copies of a game or make a sport really popular or anything like that, you need to, if you want money, right, you need to focus not on the people who care about winning, but on the people who just want to have fun. And that's how you get a big old Fortnite and a much smaller the other games.
And part of this is because adding randomness or reducing the return on effort and the return on skill in a game gives players this ego shield, hence the Evangelion shield. It's an ancient anime from a long, long time ago. But an ego shield is basically, if I lose a game, I can look at the game and say, oh, well, I could have won, but the blue shell hit me 4 times. Oh, I would have won, but there was input lag. Oh, I would have won, but I rolled a 7.
No Johns.
Yep. But in a high-skill game, there isn't even the veneer of a shield. If I play Puerto Rico, the German board game with Scott, like we played the game, there's no randomness in that game except the initial setup.
Right, if you play tennis, you can't be like, there's no excuses in tennis.
Yep.
Right? Tennis is the perfect game. It's like, yeah, Roger Federer smashed the ball down your throat. You lost. Serena Williams, you lost.
Yep.
It's like, come on, what are you gonna do?
So if we play Puerto Rico and I lose, the only thing I can think in my brain is that I lost because of the decisions I made in the game. The loss is 100% my fault. And the reality is, because we're human, very few people can handle that. Very few people are able to handle that. That's just how we are. As
Even if you
these
can
meatbags.
handle it, you don't like it. It doesn't make you happy.
There's also something that happens. There's a limit to how much skill can exist in a game on Earth for a lot of reasons. So this return on effort graph, like basic technique, like you learn how to move around in FPS and then you have to actually train and get good. But eventually, you're nearly as good as you can be. No amount of skill, no amount of training, no amount of anything will actually make you better at that game. And once a game becomes, like we've said, a highly competitive game that is rewarding skill to a high degree, that is what that chart looks like. And if you look at any specific game, you can see all the ways it breaks down when that line is flat, when you no longer have ways to differentiate player A from player B. So the
Seems like we're repeating ourselves a little here with this slap together panel.
No, I was leading up to this.
Oh, okay.
Because all games have 3 true outcomes. All games, not just baseball. And those 3 true outcomes are thus. 1, randomness. If everyone is perfect, the game's end is just random. There is no player agency. It is literally random. Option 2, the game is arbitrary. Port priority determines who wins the Fox vs. Fox Final Destination no items showdown. Does anyone know about port priority?
I just learned about it.
So
yeah.
Let's say we're playing Smash Brothers, and it's different, like a lot of games have this kind of thing, an arbitrary outcome. Let's say me and Scott are perfect Smash players.
Not even close.
Let's say we are. We're absolutely perfect. We're both in a sudden death at the end of like a draw to tournament forever.
It's Fox Final Destination,
Yep.
no items, it's super competitive, no random thing is gonna mess us up.
We're both
right?
at 300, we both charge a smash, and we hit each other exactly on the same frame from the same distance with the same move.
So it's 1/60th of a second precision. We're both exactly precise. No mistake has been made, right? What will the game do in that situation? Who will be smashed off the board? We're both equidistant from the edge of the board, so when we go flying, we're gonna hit the edge at the same time, right? But it's gonna say game, and who's gonna be ranked number 1?
If my controller's plugged in here, I'll win. If Scott's here, he'll lose. That's it. It's just arbitrary. So theoretically, Smash Brothers is entirely arbitrary if humans get good enough at it, and there's literally no more skill you can input. That is different from random, because it's not random. It's not like player 1 or 2 will win 50% of the time. It's, oh, there's a rule, we can solve Smash Brothers.
Right, random would be that after that smash, the game internally did some RNG and picked one of the players. That would be random, right? But always player 1, that's arbitrary.
Yep. Well, we also see this. This is another concept, politics in games. Politics is basically, can you interact with other players in the context of the game? So as you add politics to a game, the return on skill always decreases.
Right, so imagine a game of Risk, right? You're on a board playing, warring with other people. If there's only 2 people, there can't be politics because everyone is just voting for themselves to win. But let's get a 3rd player or a 4th player or a 5th player, right? Now you can choose who to attack. I could be perfect at Risk. Right? I'm the best Risk player ever, the grand champion. And maybe the other players aren't even the grand champion of Risk. They're weak, right? They're the Ukrainians, right? They're not good at Risk. But
I think that might be a dated reference, too.
There might be, right? But they all just know that I'm the best, and they gang up on me. No matter how good I am, I can't beat 4 people at Risk, right? LeBron can beat 4 people at basketball, but I can't beat 4 people at Risk. That is not going to happen no matter how perfect my decisions are. It's not like, because it's a random game, the dice will come in, right? So my skill doesn't matter when there are politics, which means it's a vote who wins game, right? Anything with more than 2 sides. 2 teams is okay because every team is voting for itself. But once there's more than 2 sides, right, there will be politics and skill will matter less, except if it's a race, like a 100-meter dash. Everyone's just not interacting with each other.
Yeah, you can't like trip somebody in a race.
But you can, but you'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
But you're not in trouble like, oh, that's part of the game, 2-minute penalty. It's like, okay, now the police are coming.
Right.
Or like we said with chess, a draw. So think about that. all games, there is literally no way to have a game that doesn't ultimately boil down to either random, arbitrary, or always a draw. Literally no way. This is like a mathematical proof, effectively. So Epic Games, in the Fortnite situation, they chose the 80% of the audience that just wants to have fun, and they basically told the competitive players to pound sand because they want to have a game that a lot of people can play and make some money so they can keep making that game. That is a perfectly valid decision, even though that 20% is really loud on the internet. So when you're talking about games, both as players, as game designers, there's basically three audiences that make sense when you think about the perspective of how do I make a game that makes enough money to make a game?
Right, now, of course, these audiences have sub-audiences you have to think of as well, right? The casual players. Well, there might be some players who play WoW casually who just like, I don't know, questing or whatever, raiding, right? Even though that's somewhat competitive. But there might be other casual players of WoW who like role-playing, right? So, but they're all not competitive, right? So
but even
you can
within
sort of service them together.
Even within competitive players, you'll see some people want to play professionally for a salary. Like you might have a game where you have a professional set of people who are paid to play the game, as opposed to a game where there's a wide audience of competitive semi-professional players who want to play it semi-professionally, but you're not paying them to play it. And spectators, they're all over the place. Spectators are like, you can't control spectators. Spectators don't have agency in the game.
Spectators want to see the most random and crazy biz.
So look at a game like Overwatch or Fortnite. There's three types of players you can sell the game to. If you have a competitive league, are you selling it to the people who are playing in the league, or are you selling it to the people who are watching those people play in the league? The NHL is selling other people playing hockey to me so I can watch it. That's how they make their money. They're not selling like the minor league that I will pay for the privilege of playing in to me. That exists, but that is not what the NHL makes money from. So why don't we just make a game that can handle both Larry and Curly? Maybe Shemp, I don't know. Like, why don't we? Turns out, and we believe this, but we can't prove it yet, I think it's impossible to make a game that can actually address more than one audience.
Right. Now, what you can do is you can have like different modes in your game, but that's basically just different games.
Yep.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, open up Overwatch or Rocket League, and it's like, yeah, well, here's casual crazy mode I can click on, and then here's, competitive mode. Those are just two different games that happen to be in the same piece of software.
Yep.
Right? Smash Brothers, Fox only Final Destination is a different game than regular Smash Brothers.
But even there, like look at Overwatch. So yeah, there's a competitive area and a casual area, but humans are making that decision. So some kid sits down and like, ooh, do I want to be a filthy casual? No, I'm going to play pro. And they click on the competitive thing, even though that's not what they want. So you see toxic behavior from both sides cross-pollinating. So even though they are two separate games, they're still in the same community, and you can't avoid this problem. I see people losing their absolute minds in the arcade casual mode where you all play maze ganging up on like a Winston Yeti.
I can't even go play Initial D at MAGFest because everyone down there knows how to drive, and I've never sat at that machine ever, even though I really want to. I haven't even practiced one race.
Yeah, I sit down and the car's just gone, game over. Thanks for playing, okay.
I can't get good because it's like LeBron, right? Same situation.
So we've got about 2 minutes left. So
oh, thank God.
Where did we go? What was the point of this whole panel? We talked about some mechanics, we talked a lot about Fortnite, but it does come back to community in the end. What do you want out of the thing that you're enjoying? What do you want about the thing you're invested in?
Don't think about the thing you enjoy. Think about why you enjoy it, how you enjoy it, the reasons, right? What about it is fun? Why do you like it, right? If you don't know, you need to figure that out, right? And then find a community not of people who like the same thing as you, but who like the same things for the same reasons and in the same ways.
Go find those TIE Fighter on the PC players and play in their local competitive speedrunning league, if that's what you're into.
Can you even speedrun TIE Fighter?
Sort of.
Right. And if you're a game developer, just pick one.
Yeah.
Don't try to hit everybody because you're just going to make everyone mad, right?
Someday someone might. Like, there might be a genius.
Yeah, you're going to have these people mixing together who have different agendas, and they're going to make a rough community. If you focus on one and say, yeah, this is a competitive game, and then when someone comes along and says it's not fun, you say, yeah, it's a competitive game. And vice versa. You make a casually, be like, yeah, it's not a competitive game. Someone comes and complaining about RNG, and you say, yeah, it's an RNG game.
Yep.
Right? You just brush them off that way. It's not for you.
I hope this was enjoyable. We are out of time. Enjoy the rest of your MAGFest.
Is there any MAGFest left?